going to talk about today is how to replace a leather grip on a bow, whether it's a long bow or a south bow or even some recurves. You're going to take two dimensions. The first dimension is going to be in the narrowest part of the grip. So bring your tape around, and that's 5 inches. And then most grips are going to be about 4 inches long, or the thickest part of the bow. And I'm going to measure down here, and this one measures 5 1/4. So you're going to write those two dimensions down, the 5 inches and the 5 1/4 inches, and keep that in mind. Now for your piece of leather. Leather stretches in one direction, and it won't stretch as much in the other direction. This piece of leather, I'm pulling it, and it's got a little bit of stretch to it, but I'm going to turn it this way, and you'll see how it just stretches. And this is buckskin. Buckskin's going to stretch about a 1/2 inch, and the other leather, cowhide, is going to stretch about a 1/4 inch. What you want to remember is to bring it around the bow the way that it stretches, so when you overlap it and sew it on, when it dries, it's going to pull real nice and tight. So again, this dimension is usually about 4 inches. I've got a piece of leather. It's cut out. There's our 4 inches. You can see how much of the grip it's going to cover. On that 5 inches across here, I have this cut a 1/4 inch shorter, so this is 4 3/4. And in the back, where it's 5 1/4, I have it cut to 5 inches. I'm going to wrap this around, and I've got a nice gap here that when this gets wet with the barge cement, it's going to pull in real nice and tight, and I'm going to sew it up. When you sew, I have 2 curved needles, and I've got approximately 3 feet of sinew on there, artificial sinew. You can use any of the poundage, it doesn't matter. I loop it through the needle, and I've got, an inch or so hanging over that I'm going to use to keep it on the needle as I do my stitching. To put our holes in our leather grip, you're going to take your piece of leather. I like to square the ends up, make sure they're nice. And this real sharp corner here is a big no-no. What you want to do is take a pair of scissors and just nip that real lightly. There isn't much there. Just get rid of that sharp corner. You want to get yourself a good hole puncher, and I'm going to start fairly close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away. I'm just going to start punching holes, and this is by eye. They're about a 1/4 inch apart. And to make sure they line up at the other end when I get there, I go about halfway. Now I start from the other end, and I start punching my holes through the leather. And when you get fairly close to the other holes, you want to see how many more holes you can get in that spacing. It looks like I can get 2 good ones in there to make it look like they're lined up evenly. So I punch my last 2 holes in there. There'll still be some slugs in there from the hole puncher, but you got an idea of the holes going through there. Now this is going to get wrapped around the bow. So what I'm going to do is apply a good coating of barge cement on there. I like barge cement for one reason: it comes off the bow very easily. So if you ever get any on the bow itself, it rubs right off. And don't be afraid to put some barge cement on there. It needs to soak in the leather. You want to stay away from the holes, but you want to get it everywhere else. If you get it too close to the holes, it's going to squirt out through them when you're sewing it up, and that can just make the process of tying it down very, very frustrating. So get a good coating of barge cement on there. Make sure you cover everything. And you don't have a whole lot of time to work here because it dries quick. It's not only soaking into the leather, the air is drying out. Okay, what you do is you bring it up on the bow, stretch it up, and you'll see how it lines up real nice. Pull it up all the way. Make sure you get it in the tight spots of that groove or your locator grip. Now you take your needle and thread, and what you're going to do is you're going to go through you're going to pull it halfway. Go back through it again. I go through it a couple of times on the top. So you got, now what you're going to do is you're going to lace it like you do shoes. So I'm going to come through this hole and go through there. And again, you've got time to make sure that that stays in its spot. So you're going to come around and go through there and come out through the hole on the other side. Now it's just like lacing a pair of shoes. You're going to just keep doing this. Okay, when you get down to these last couple holes, you're going to put it in there, bring it through just like you've been doing. Those curved needles will not scratch your bow if you got a nice curve to them. But when you get down to here, got a needle on each side of the bow, what you do is go over it and come out from the bottom now, because you're almost done. You don't pull real tight because that leather is soft and it's wet, so it rips easily. But you come out the bottom. Sometimes guys will put beads on them here and tie out. What I like to do on my bows is just put a simple knot in here. It's a square knot. Again, you don't pull very tight, just enough to get it tight. If you pull too tight, you can rip that leather there. But now what you want to do is you want to get this hook needle in there and find one of these holes up here. You can go up a couple, 2, 3. There we go. And you want to pull it out and then just let that needle pull right through there. Okay, so now you've got a little extra sinew hanging out there. You just get it a little bit of a pull and snip it. It'll pull right back in there. What I'll do now is I'll just massage into those low spots. But that grip's done. And that took less than 10 minutes.